She entered history through a portrait, still, decorated, silent, a young woman dressed like a promise, long before anyone asked who she really was. In this world, a woman's face could become policy. Her eyes, her jewels, her stillness, all of it could carry a kingdom's expectations. Anne came from Cleves, far from the dangerous polish of the Tudor court. Her world was orderly, formal, restrained, and very different from Henry's. She was not raised to flirt with kings. She was raised to obey family, duty, rank, and the quiet rules of noble women. Royal marriage was rarely romance. It was land, alliance, religion, security, and power. A bride could become a treaty with a heartbeat. Then came the painter. Hans Holbein was sent to capture a likeness. But a portrait could never carry a woman's whole truth. Anne sat for the image that would travel before her. Every fold of fabric mattered. Every jewel had to speak in her place. The pearls were not only decoration, they were evidence. Proof of rank, value, purity, and readiness to become a queen. He studied her face carefully, but even the most gifted painter could not paint the danger waiting behind Henry's desire. By the time the portrait was finished, Anne had already become something larger than herself, a bride, imagined from a distance. The portrait crossed borders before she did. Wrapped, protected, carried through winter roads, it delivered a version of Anne to England. Henry looked at the image and built a fantasy. Not of a woman he knew, but of a woman he expected to please him. This was the trap. A painted face became a promise. And when real life arrived, it had no chance against imagination. The danger was not that Anne looked different from the portrait. The danger was that Henry had already chosen a woman who did not exist. Anne received the news. She had been chosen. But chosen did not mean cherished. It meant her future now belonged to a king. Her life was folded into trunks, gowns, jewels, linen, prayer books. A young woman packed for a country that already expected her. She crossed into England under a winter sky. Behind her was everything familiar. Ahead of her was a court famous for watching women fall. When Anne arrived, she was not only seen, she was inspected. Every gesture, every garment, every silence became something to judge. The Tudor court knew how to watch. It could turn a glance into gossip, and gossip into a woman's reputation. Then came the famous meeting. Henry approached her in disguise, expecting delight, recognition, maybe even admiration. Anne did not know him. She responded politely, but not romantically. And Henry's pride was wounded before the marriage even began. In that moment, something changed. Not because Anne had done wrong, but because she had failed to perform the fantasy. The whispers began quickly. At court, disappointment did not stay private. It moved through corridors, carried by smiles and lowered voices. This is how reputations begin, not with truth. With a look, a whisper, a disappointed man, and a room willing to repeat it. In this world, a woman's face could become policy. Her eyes, her jewels, her stillness, all of it could carry a kingdom's expectations. Imagine her chamber before the wedding. Silk waiting, jewels waiting, a mirror waiting, and a bride already unwanted. In the mirror, she did not see a love story. She saw a role, a crown, a danger she had to survive. Anne married Henry in January 1540. The ceremony was grand. The room was full, but grandeur could not create desire. She was queen, but only briefly. The crown touched her life like a shadow. Beautiful, dangerous, and already slipping away. Beside Henry, Anne had to sit in public stillness. Every eye measured her. Every silence asked the same cruel question. Henry said she was not to his taste. A simple phrase. At the Tudor court, but in a king's mouth, performance. It could ruin a woman. A woman had to charm, smile, blush, answer, and move exactly as expected. Anne's dress, manners, and silence came from another world. What was modest in Cleves could seem awkward in England. Henry complained, and when a king complained, everyone listened. Soon Anne's face became the excuse for his disappointment. Then came the papers, formal words, seals, ink. A marriage could be undone by men around a table. Anne was told the marriage would end. She had seen what happened to unwanted queens. She understood the danger. They said her face did not change, but stillness is not emptiness. Sometimes stillness is terror under perfect control. Anne understood something dangerous. At Henry's court, emotion could be used against a woman, so she gave them stillness. Henry's court was full of ghosts. One wife cast aside, one beheaded, one dead after childbirth. Anne knew the pattern, so she chose the path that kept her alive, not rebellion, not outrage, composure. In Henry's world, composure was strategy. She accepted the annulment, calmly, publicly, carefully, and that choice may have saved her life. Henry named her his beloved sister. It was not love, but it was safety, money, property, and survival. Anne received houses and income for a rejected queen. This was rare. She lost the marriage, but kept her life. Still, the insult followed her. Ugly, plain, unwanted. History often remembers the cruelty more easily than the truth. But look again at the portrait. Do we see ugliness? Or do we see a woman trapped inside someone else's expectation? Maybe Anne was not ugly. Maybe she was untranslated. A woman from one court, judged by the rules of another. And then came the final reversal. Anne outlived Henry. She outlived the man who rejected her. She also outlived every one of his other wives. The woman dismissed as a disappointment became the woman who endured. History chose the insult because insults are easy to repeat. But a woman's life is always larger than the word used against her. Behind the joke was a real woman, young, foreign, vulnerable, intelligent, careful, and forced to survive a king's wounded pride. In Anne's world, beauty could open a door. But if it displeased the wrong man, it could also become a sentence. Anne walked away from the court's cruelty with something more powerful than approval. She walked away with her future. They called her unwanted. They called her a mistake. But Anne did what few women around Henry ever managed to do. She walked away alive, intact, and impossible to erase. She lost the crown, but kept herself. And in Henry's court, that was not a defeat. That was the rarest victory of all.